The Corleone family saga continues with the second entry in Francis Ford Coppola's trilogy, The Godfather Part 2. It's here, and it's coming your way. Stay with us. Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Eric, we're getting close to closing out another trilogy. Possibly.
Possibly. Hey, you said it, not me.
Are we going to close this trilogy out? We'll have to see.
Well,
we just closed out Star Wars trilogy, so
I'm game. So
shame on us for starting all these trilogies. We did Back to the Future, but we didn't do Back to the Future 2 and 3, right? We were smart. I think we were smart enough to
we could, yeah.
Right?
I wasn't even there for that one. I wasn't even there for the first one.
So we kind of, I think we're picking our spots with the trilogies. Is that safe to say? I think we're kind of, being selective.
Yeah.
We're going with the greats.
I guess we'll talk about a little bit more about that in a minute, but
okay.
Where does this fit?
Yeah. Last year we did Godfather, which I famously was harangued mercilessly. If you want to hear a man get berated for an hour, go listen to the Godfather episode from last year. You can listen to that. If you want to hear me get harangued and berated for another hour and change, listen to this episode. Stay with us. I'm sure there's more coming. And I brought back the people that were here last year just to continue to twist the dagger.
Yeah.
To cut across me. That's it. To give me the Andolini slice.
Ooh.
As it's called.
Yeesh.
So let's do this, Eric. Hey, listen, if you're new to the show, hey, thanks for checking us out. There's a whole bunch of music and movie content you could check out. All of it's free. It always will be free. There's well over 200 episodes back there. If you want to take the next step and become a Green Room supporter, it's as low as like $1 a month. If you want to help out, go to buymeacoffee.com/3324. That's buymeacoffee.com/3324. You can become a Green Room supporter and get some extra bits and bobs there. But otherwise, our socials, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, you can continue the conversation about this episode there as well. So let's get to it, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let's introduce Nick Corleone.
The family.
Let's start the family with Nick Corleone.
Family is here. Yeah.
from out west. Mr. Nick Leshy.
Thank you.
So glad to have you back again for another
Always
episode.
glad to be here with you all.
Yeah. And Nick, two of these guests have been with us on our other trilogy too. So that could be something. There could be something to that too. These guys like watching epic film sagas, I suppose. So let's go there. Let's go with Mr. Sean Grady, purveyor of drama from the past. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook. We'll drop a link in the show notes for his endeavors as well. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks again for having me. Love being here.
Of course.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Godfather 2. And rounding out the cast, Connie Corleone.
I was waiting for
it. AKA Christy Cuomo. Christy, so glad to have you back. I think this is your first episode of the year, end of season 5.
I believe both of those statements are correct. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe those are true statements. So welcome aboard to talk about this film. There's a lot to talk about, so we'll get into it. Of course, we're going to do the stats. And yeah, I guess since I'm the new guy again, we'll kind of we'll approach it from, I suppose, that aspect, and all everybody else on the who's not me has seen it multiple times. And probably knows it chapter and verse. So here we go. The stats are: this was released in December of 1974. It was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, also known to Eric as a purveyor of fine wines. Written by Francis Ford Coppola and Mario Puzo. The budget was $13 million, and it made $93 million back on the box office. 9 Oscar nominations. That's a boatload. especially, for a sequel, because sequels weren't really a thing, and that was a concern there about calling it part 2 and doing a part 2. Out of the 9, it won for Best Picture. It won for Best Director, Francis Ford Coppola, and it won for Best Supporting Actor, Mr. Bobby De Niro, which is a minor scandal or talking point about, who should have, there were other people nominated who should have won, who was nominated that didn't win, who should have, there's so many, the one thing I'll say about this movie, just like The Godfather, it is chock full of performances. I mean, that's the, lay the groundwork first is we don't really have to talk about casting because we talked about that. Pretty much everybody's returning except for Brando and Clemenza. Brando died, but they did want him for a flashback. And Clemenza was supposed to come back, but the actor Richard Castellano supposedly he wanted more input on writing for his character, and they wouldn't give that to him. So they just said, well, just forget it. So they just made up a whole other character to kind of fill in the slot that he would have, and then they kill him off screen with a heart attack. So supposedly. But rounding out the cast, of course, I'll go through it quickly. Al Pacino is Michael Corleone, of course, the great Robert Duvall, Tom Hagen, Diane Keaton as Kay, Robert De Niro as young Vito Corleone, which is there is some Oscar trivia there, right, Sean? With two actors winning Oscars for playing the same person.
Yep.
Right. Way before the Joker, way before Joaquin Phoenix and Christian Bale did it for the Joker. Brando and De Niro did it for playing the same character, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
How old was Brando at this point? Because I keep seeing, I was always like, how cool would it have been? Because he put on weight and he, put the jowls and, to make him look in the first movie like this older person. So how cool would it have been for him to play like the younger version of himself? I know he was too old, but I thought that was a missed opportunity because it would have been cool for him to win an Oscar playing his younger self after he won the Oscar for playing the older. But De Niro was great, right?
I don't think Brando was going to be running across any roofs, Christy.
No, Brando was not even 50.
Done it.
Yeah, I think he was in his mid-40s when he
Coppola
did.
wanted him to. I read. Coppola thought he could play a younger version of himself. I read somewhere, so it didn't happen.
I don't know. Yeah, I think we're better off this way.
They would have had to cut the roof running.
Yeah. Of course, the great John Cazale as Fredo, Talia Shire as Connie, Lee Strasberg, acting royalty. Anybody that studies acting. As Hyman Roth. We'll go to G.D. Spradlin as Senator Geary.
Love that character.
He's so smarmy. Personal favorite of mine, Mr. Bruno Kirby as young Clemenza.
Great casting there. Great casting.
Frank Sivero as Genco Abundando, also known as Carbone from Goodfellas.
Yes, and he
Frankie
looks
two times,
exactly the same.
Yeah,
same fucking brillowy hair.
Same. I mean, he looked exactly the same in Goodfellas that he did in this film. I couldn't believe how he didn't look that much younger.
He looked like his face was a little shorter version of himself. Like he looked. I'm like, wait, is that Carbone?
Yeah.
I'm like, gotta be. And then there's another one, Dominic Chianese as Johnny Ola. Of course, I knew him as Uncle Junior from The Sopranos.
Yep.
So there's some of that.
The great undoing of Fredo.
What's that?
Ola, the undoing of Fredo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fredo was the undoing of Fredo.
Well, he is just stupid.
Yeah.
He's dumb.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Hey, we're jumping ahead. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Harry Dean Stanton in a very small role as an FBI.
Yes. Yep.
Carmine Caridi, who's another character actor, as Carmine Rosado, and then Danny Aiello is in it for
in a little
seconds.
cameo.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course,
At least he can put it on his resume, so that's good.
Yeah,
the great Joe Spinell, Gazzo from the Rocky films, Willie Chichi.
Great part.
Yeah. Again, the top to bottom, the cast is, I think, for this, I think it's probably 80 to 90% of what makes these types of films successful is,
Mm-hmm.
these actors are just so great. And yeah, some of them are Italian. So you're casting for ethnicity, and they kind of can bring that, they can bring that kind of authentic, kind of Italian, New York Italian thing with these New York actors, with these New York Italian actors that can bring it. So,
but also, I dare say, a lot of ego coming through the door there. Yeah,
sure. Even to the point of Pacino, in the run up to this, but Pacino looked at the script and actually said, I don't want to do this. I don't think this script is very good. He refused. He declined it, and then they had to go back, and Coppola had to polish it up and send it back to Pacino, and he said, okay, so Mario Puzo was working on this even before The Godfather was made. He was working on a sequel because these were books, so he was continuing. He started writing it. So yeah, let me go around, because a lot of people, there's this contention, Eric, that Godfather 2 in some circles is better than The Godfather. Some people say The Godfather 2 is better than The Godfather. Godfather is incredible and it's fantastic, but Godfather 2 is even better. Where do you? I want to get a temperature for the room of where do you land on this?
I can say with the utmost confidence that it's the greatest sequel ever made. I think. Is it as good as the first? I think a lot of people are speaking to the idea that it's looked at as one film, and I think the movie just comes so close to the level of the first, of the continuation of this family. It's more about, I think, the experience of it rather than, I think, but this movie is definitely more ambitious. It serves as a prequel and a sequel simultaneously. I can't think of any other film in movie history that has done that. Now, I mean, nowadays, yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, all the TV shows we're jumping back, going flashback, we're diving into every character, every moment, every feeling. But as for a feature film, that was a pretty ambitious in the form of it.
Yeah,
I came to it very. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it until much later on in its true form, because it was re-edited for television as the Godfather book for television, when they re-edited and put all the prequel scenes in chronological order. So it was running. I think it ran for 3 nights or something like that on TV. That was the first time I saw both films. So I had that experience, but maybe, I don't know, maybe people are remembering it that way. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
All right.
Not quite perhaps as good as the first, but I think it's definitely really, really close. And I definitely think it's the best sequel ever made.
Alrighty. Christy. Better?
Up until a couple of years ago, I would have said Godfather 2 is better than Godfather.
What changed your mind?
What was that show that
SpongeBob?
The Offer?
Yeah, it was SpongeBob in The Offer. The Offer, and then I really, really appreciated the Godfather a lot more. But I agree with Eric. I think it's the best sequel made. The best parts for me about the Godfather 2 are De Niro. De Niro in The Godfather 2 is absolutely phenomenal. And I think he deserved the Oscar. Pacino can bitch and moan all he wants. But
I don't recall him complaining.
Pacino was a diva in this film. There's a lot of stories about Pacino.
Oh yeah, but I don't let him complain about not winning.
Well, but we're talking about egos and stuff. His ego was, within 2 years, his ego, the guy made 20 grand.
Probably so, I think, right? I mean,
Yeah, but you can't be yelling at Serpico. How long? You can't be comparing it to Serpico when you're on the set yelling at people. I mean, calm the fuck down.
But you're saying Godfather.
I now prefer Godfather to Godfather 2 as much as I love Godfather 2.
Okay, Sean, where do you come out on this?
I think I go back and forth, to be honest with you. I was watching it, preparing for this, and I'm like, wow, this is, I feel like I catch more of the first one often. And the second one, for some reason, I don't often get to revisit. And I was like, wow, this is really good from top to bottom, like you said. Even the guy selling oranges, I'm like, everybody does a great job in this film. It's amazing. But what the one thing that's missing is Brando for me. Like maybe if they got him for that last scene, like they wanted to, maybe that would tip the scale. I don't know. It's neck and neck for me.
Really?
If I had to make a choice right now, at this point, right now, it could be 2.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right, Nick. What do you?
Yeah, a lot of my friends would rank 2 as the best, but I don't. I think The Godfather is one of my top 10 movies of all time, and this is one of my favorite movies. Part 2 is a great sequel. I don't know if I'd call it the best. There's a lot of sequels I personally wouldn't say on the level of quality, like Star Trek 2 and Terminator 2, that I really enjoy much more than the original. Godfather 2, I don't enjoy more than the original. So for that reason alone, I can't say it's the greatest sequel of all time. It is a great sequel. It's a little long. I really think they should have done what Coppola wanted to do. I had read he wanted to do a prequel and a sequel. And he was working with Mario Puzo, who I should say he was a great novelist. His best script, Superman. It's a fact. But other than that, that's it's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Okay.
So
all right. No, wow. I mean, I'm watching it.
Fact.
I'm watching Godfather 2, and I'm just kind of aware of how revered it is, and how many people thought, how it was. A lot of people thought it was better in a lot of aspects than the Godfather, than the first one. So I'm kind of watching this film with a higher bar already set for me, and to be honest, I don't think it came near it.
How many times have you seen The Godfather 2?
I'll kind of go through it. I think there's actually a lot of problems with this.
How many times have you seen it? Just once? Just the once?
Just once.
Last
once.
Night?
But yeah, last night. But let me go through. I mean,
on television.
No, on Blu-ray. I saw it on actual. What?
Still different. You should watch it on the big screen.
I did. I have a projector and I put it on my wall. So
with an audience, live audience.
Okay. No. Let me go through this. Acting, absolutely check.
Yeah,
perfect. Cinematography, check. It had the feel of the Godfather universe. It had the same kind of feel. Directing, kind of half a check. Because I feel that he, like Nick said, there's kind of 2 films you're watching, and I feel that he was more invested in the prequel universe. That felt more kind of real, and when you switch back to the now time of Godfather 2, and maybe the way the film was paced, that could be also what did it for me. Is there was a very long chunk of current story, so much so that I thought we were done with the flashback part. Go ahead, Christy.
Originally, Coppola had the flashbacks much closer, so that gap was smaller, but it didn't play well to audiences. So he lengthened it, so it kind of would take you out of some of the time periods. But audiences at the time when they were previewing it liked it better. So he tried.
I feel it. You see less of the prequel portion in the beginning, first half of the film. Second half of the film, I feel like it starts to slide more concurrent with the present day, because the juxtaposition between what's going on with Michael at this point, and it was important to show Vito in the early days, 2 completely different circumstances of essentially trying to do the same thing.
1,000%.
As far as the characters are, it's a different time. Back when Vito, he had to do it to survive, basically. Michael is he's the devil in this thing. He is ruthless. He is. It was important to show that juxtaposition and to go back and forth as they did especially in the second half. Because after that, this is when Vito, De Niro becomes the Don. Now he is, the man he's going to be. At this point, so I feel like that was important. So in the editing, I think it's great. It definitely that's what makes the film great is that alone is the form, is the what they're doing here. That's what for me stands out as a great film, because nobody was doing this at the time, so that's what, for me, that's what elevated it to that level. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The way it starts is a nice juxtaposition to the way the first movie started, right? Because the first movie starts with a big wedding celebration, and this one started with that funeral. So right away, it's like kind of a different feel and tone. But, like I said, I wish they had been separated. But I think that, like Eric was saying, the juxtaposition between Vito and Michael is a great contrast. I think you see, and I think you saw that in the first movie. So I don't know if you really needed to have the flashbacks kind of hit you over the head a little bit, but the way Vito was in the first movie was very controlled. It was all about respect. And then in the flashbacks in Godfather Part 2, you see that too. Like he's the way he's doing. He's still brutal. He kills 2 people, right, brutally. But you see how he earns the respect. And Michael changes drastically. That's the arc, I think, that we see. How he just, who called him the devil? Was it Christie? Right? He's this brutal monster. Eric. He's this monster. And it's so different. And I think that's why that flashback at the end of the movie, when he's sitting with his family, he didn't want to get in the family business. He wanted to do something else. He wanted his own destiny, right? He didn't want to kind of fall into taking over the family. He's very different at the end of Godfather Part 2 than he was at Godfather Part 1. And he's nowhere near. He's more like Sonny in a way than he was like his dad, right?
I think we touched on this in the first one, the first podcast, when we discussed the juxtaposition between Vito and Michael, and how Vito, he's just a more likable character. I mean, in 1 and 2, Michael, like Eric said, becomes like the devil. He's not nice. Like the arc of that character in the first one, where he's just a sweet, innocent guy who doesn't want to be part of it. Even his voice is, everything's just so low key. And then to what he becomes so quickly. But when you're watching 2 and the back and forth, which I agree with Eric, you see Vito, and I don't know if wholesome is the right word, but the way he comes into it's not for the sake of it. And we talked about this in the first one. Michael's born into it. He just inherits something. He didn't have to earn it. He didn't build it. He doesn't respect it. Like, he just abuses it. It's an abusive power.
I don't know if it's a matter of him respecting it as much as it is, but that respect was already
it's an entitlement. He has an entitlement to it.
Exactly. It was already given to him, so he already had the respect from all the people that honored Vito. So he had that in the very beginning, but you see this decline of him losing all of these people because he becomes
and his
paranoid,
father never did, which is why I think Part 2 is great to have. Yeah. I like that it wasn't a prequel and they just separated the stories, because I think it's important to show them side by side. I mean, for me.
And it's funny you mentioned that, Sean. What I wrote down is that Michael has everything that he could want except control. So he has the respect of everybody in this. Everybody respects him, but it seems like the things that are closest to him, he has no control. He has no control over Connie, right? He really doesn't have any control over Fredo. He doesn't, people are trying to assassinate him. So Sean, I got this feeling that he is being changed, not by the business, because he says business is business, but I think all these things are a reaction to a lack of having control of these things.
Yeah, and I think that comes to a head when Kay tells him that she aborted, that pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
And oh man, that is just, and you see him boiling, and he hits her. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
I think there's something to that, and getting control in the best way that he can, I guess, is by being ruthless. I'm just, I guess, trying to maintain that level of respect and fear amongst everybody else.
Yeah, because he says to Kay, I'm going to change. I want to change, but he doesn't really make any attempt at that whatsoever. And even Kay says, she goes, 5 years ago, you told me you'd be legitimate. It's been 7 years. Or 7 years ago, you told me in 5 years you'd be legitimate. Go ahead, Christy.
I think the scene with Michael and his mother, when he goes and he's talking to her, in a very, very dark scene, where he says to her, like, was Pop ever scared of losing it all? And she kind of doesn't get what he's saying. She's like, his family, you can never lose your family, Michael. It's your family. But he knows he doesn't have that. He doesn't have a grasp on his family. He is not his father. And Michael knows that. And he is losing his family. And inevitably, he loses all of his family when he's sitting out there alone after all is said and done.
And that's the finer point.
That's a very important scene in this film with him and his mother.
That is the finer point that Dean was saying. Like he doesn't have control. Yeah, he's got control in everything else but the family. And and he's supposed to be doing this for the family. He's supposed to be keeping the family together by running the business. And it's like, and that's the one thing that he has absolutely no control over. And that, I think, tears him up. That's where,
And the last thing he says,
I honestly think he loses his mind. Yeah, I in a sense, but you don't really. I mean, he's not psycho, but he's just very, very. He becomes just very evil.
Unhinged.
Yeah. So
times are changing is the last thing he says to his mother.
Right.
And then, like a couple scenes later, he sort of tricks Fredo to coming back into the fold. And then what does he say to?
He's evil. Eric's right. He's
nothing.
Evil.
Don't do anything to him while my mother's alive.
Yeah.
Like, ooh,
but for me, that's where things, that's where things got a little redundant for me. It's kind of like, didn't we see this with Carlo? He betrayed the family, and they brought him in and said, I'm not going to kill my sister's husband. And they go ahead and kill him anyway, and then they do it with it was just like part of the problems.
Fredo's blood, though.
Yeah, but it was still but from a screenplay point, the machinations were very much the same. There's a rat. Someone's giving information. Like the structure was the same thing. It's like, okay, who's it going to be this movie now? Who's the bad guy, and who are we going to lure in and then kill?
Well, Fredo, I had the problem. I don't think Fredo malicious. I really believe that. Whereas Carlo was, definitely knew what he was doing to try to betray Michael. That's where I think it's a little different. But I get what you're saying. It does have a sure feel to it.
Yeah,
but
from the story beats, not from the specific characters, but just from how they're kind of interacting with as far as the story goes and what's going on. So.
I don't know about you, but I'm like I always hope that Fredo doesn't get it. It's like this. I'm like, poor guy. Like if that scene is heartbreaking, it's heartbreaking when he says to Mike, "I was passed over." Oh man, that's soul crushing. It's terrible.
It's John Cazale. I mean,
right, yeah.
Well, he does say he says to Michael, Mom always said the gypsies left me. Like, he says it that he always felt like an outsider, and he kind of
understood.
And his personality is an outsider. He's really just a sweet. Like, I mean, he fucks up. He's a fuck up, but he's not meant to be in a mafioso family. He's just too.
Yeah, no.
He just wants to have fun, be with girls, drink. He's not built for it. He was left by gypsies.
It's so funny that he says that and he thinks that of himself. And in that one scene, he looks so much like Brando. When he's
at the end,
when he's yelling at Michael, he looks so much like Brando there. Like so much more so than De Niro as young Brando, in my opinion. But
because they have him like in the same type of sweater that Brando was wearing at the end when he's sunken in that chair.
Yeah,
and he's got the thin mustache and the hair. Yeah, he's definitely like a stand-in almost for or like in a and there's that whole power position of the way Fredo is like slumped in that, like it's almost like a hammock chair, and then Michael is sitting very stoically
Yeah.
You know, and he's and Fredo's in this the kind of submissive position.
It's
I think
it's interesting because we were talking about control with Michael. Eric? Did you say he doesn't have control?
He doesn't have. Well,
I
Dean
did.
was saying that he doesn't seem to have control of
But
Like his family and the
everything.
things.
But
Yeah,
for
he
me,
doesn't.
it's
But he
doesn't
has.
have.
He's a very controlled person. Like when you take when they're
Yeah.
in Havana,
oh yeah,
and really it shows their personalities when Fredo's having a banana daiquiri or two,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Michael's drinking club soda, and
He's
that
methodical. Yeah.
he's very methodical and he's very in
yeah.
control, and like I mean he drinks alcohol and stuff, but he's very controlled. He doesn't do anything with the girls. He just and it really speaks to their two personalities, the way that Coppola shows it with again with the choices of drinks for them, and the choices of the
Yeah.
music, and when they're at the club and he's like, everyone's got to stand up, everyone stands up here, and so I don't know, like
Well, as far as the business goes, I think he has that very much in common with Vito. Like Vito,
Yes.
in the beginning, that his mother was saying he's a dim-witted kid and he's not very smart, and
Yeah.
he could be. And you kind of get the impression that Fredo is takes after, but that's not the case at all. Obviously, because he turns out to be the most ambitious of the group. As you recall, like Clemenza was trying to tell him, you gotta pay this guy Finucci. You get, he's and Vito was like, he's not telling that, he's not explaining what he plans to do, like what he really plans to do, right? He has this all. I love the fact that he's calculating, he's cold, and he's observing. Michael does the same thing when it comes to the business, but when it comes to the family, Vito also was very much aware and kept his family close. But Michael doesn't seem to have that. Maybe that doesn't seem to have that ability. I don't think, or he just loses control.
Yeah,
Everybody's
he
kind of
was. He's not.
yeah,
He's not able to separate. He says business
right,
is business and family is family, but he's not
yeah,
able to separate those things. Where Vito would go and sit in the garden and play with his
right,
grandkids,
yeah,
and you felt. And I think I said it when we did the Godfather episode. His office was like a part of their house, and when you open the door, there's kids running around outside. Whereas in Godfather 2, what is it called? A compound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't leave the compound.
yeah,
You can't let this is like a jail that we've made for we live in a cage, and that's the only way. Where Vito never had to worry about that. Yeah, people tried to take him out, but he never had to worry about it happening at his house, right?
right,
Whereas in this, Michael treats his family with the same kind of strategic thought that he does his adversaries. Like,
mm-hmm.
that he kind of, I think, used them all on the same playing field. It's like, well, I'm going to deal with Kay the same way I deal with, with the Rosado brothers, or I'm going to deal with that. Like, everything is very methodical and strategic,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not how the family wants him, right? They want him to
No.
kind of, Connie wants him to, even though like her new husband to be is just another
Merle.
Another loser, but
And the guy's sitting right in the same room, and he's like, "I don't know this Merle. I don't know what he does." And the guy's fucking sitting there, like he's like, "Hello,"
He's like, "Well, we're getting married anyway." It's like, oh man, I'm like, God, this guy. Why is this guy talking? Like, didn't Connie warn him?
Yeah.
So I, I got that from Michael, that the coldness. Kind of heavy lies the crown, Nick. Right? But he's not able to separate that.
Yeah.
I feel like he was taking it personal, which went against everything he learned from his dad. Like he even quotes his dad and says, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And what does he do? He wants to whack them all. He wants to kill them all, even the ones that aren't really a threat. I mean, was Fredo really ever going to do anything to endanger him again? No. And that just shows how far he would go, where even blood wasn't enough. Like he wouldn't stop. Like, yeah, he waited until his mom passed away because he didn't want to break her heart. But, that's just like cold, and that's where you could just see him becoming this kind of vindictive, monstrous kind of, and that becomes a tragedy. That becomes so different from what he was in the first movie. But I think what's great about this movie is you see him become that. You see all like that thread go through the storyline, and and the anger, the explosive stuff that you didn't see in that character in the beginning, but it's believable. It's not like, Al Pacino in Heat, where it's just like,
Oh, boy.
overacting.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
But my point is, like,
Where's the bell? Is there a bell?
You mean the better film with Pacino and De Niro? Is that what you mean, Nick? The better film that Pacino and De Niro was together?
hey,
Ooh, shots fired! Shots fired!
Nick, you made a good point there, because at one point in the movie, Tom Hagen says to Michael, "Are you trying to wipe everybody out?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Michael's like, "What do you mean?" Because it's like, yeah, kill Hyman Roth, kill all these people, and some of these attempts fail, right? Like the attempt on Hyman Roth fails. So he's just. It seems like in The Godfather, it was much more strategic. It was precise. And it was done for a reason. This seems more just done out of like personal vendetta. It's like, oh, you hurt my
he doesn't
feelings.
trust anyone anymore, right? His wife betrayed him. His brother betrayed him. That's why he asks Tom. He's like, I thought you were leaving. It's like, is that why? He doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
So if you can't trust Tom, who are you going to trust, right?
Yeah. Nick makes a very valuable point there, because, and like, this goes with what Dean was saying about the redundancy of the rat and all that kind of stuff. Well, in this thing, the rat didn't, like we pointed out, it didn't come close to home. This was different. This was a totally different situation. And if you notice, like every scene, even though some scenes do play long, some, the whole Havana thing could have been shortened down, in my opinion, but everything kind of leads up to some scene, a big moment, right? The abortion scene, the scene with Hagen. These characters are so diminished in this movie. Like Duvall is barely there in the first half, and neither is Kay.
Yeah.
But they each have those big moments. So these things sort of play out to those I think to those scenes where it's important to show Michael getting the paranoia, and he's also getting sick. This is where the diabetes starts setting. If you notice, he's drinking a lot of water. His face looks very ashen in a lot of scenes. Like he's just visibly looks ill.
Drawn.
Yeah. So, which kind of obviously plays into the third film. But yeah, I think, I get what you're saying, Dean, about the redundancy aspect, but I think it kind of works itself out in several key moments.
Let me go one further. Christy, when he goes to Havana, that is pretty much the same thing as when he goes to Sicily in The Godfather. It's like he's got to escape. He gets away. He goes to a far off land, and then the movie shifts over to that like kind of excursion. Like there's a lot of storytelling, again, meaning set pieces and storytelling parallels. I'm not saying the story's the same, but it's the same thing where, he's got to get into Godfather. He's got to leave because he made a hit and he's going to get made, he's going to whatever. And then in this one, the attempt on his life, and he's got, he's going to Cuba anyway to do this deal, and then a big set piece somewhere else. So for me, like a lot of these parallel, like,
I didn't make that correlation on that.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
correlation.
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 I think in his.
Sorry, Sean. Sean, I'm sorry. I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm alone out here. I'm fucking blind.
Oh, hey.
I'm in the dark.
Wrong movie.
Sorry.
In this line of work, it's probably not that uncommon to have to flee and go, whether it's hide or do a business. So for me, it just seemed like they go to Vegas and one, they go to Havana, they go to Italy. Like it's not that. I mean, even in the flashback scene, Vito goes back to Italy. So it's. I think it's just
that was short. That was just like a
but
I'm talking about if you really take Godfather 2, the sequel parts, and you map it to Godfather, there's a lot of the same storytelling.
I think it's
beat
just a way of
right
life for them. I didn't even think about when he went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't see where Dean. You said he fled to Havana. No, he did it.
Well,
He was on
meaning
his
he
business.
left. He's like, "I'm Tom. I'm leaving you in charge," and then he
Yeah,
goes.
Get my kid a Christmas present.
I don't mean it's the same thing, but meaning the same things are happening where he's leaving and going to a far off place, and then a whole chunk of the movie takes place there,
I
and then
think
he
that's
comes
the
back.
business.
And
That's
I
the
think-
business.
and also it shows the it's a set piece. It's showing you Cuba. It's this exotic.
It also shows you the chaos of the business. I mean, you do what you
chaos
got to
of the
do.
business. Yeah,
The Cuba
right.
stuff was really important, though. Like the whole thing with Hyman,
cake?
but also setting up the fact that they were like how we can control government too. Like that's the missing link,
or how
and
they
just
thought
really
they were gonna, right?
yeah. But exactly, that was their aspiration. They're like, if we can do this,
While
and
we're on
control the
the
regulations. And
while we're on Cuba, can we discuss? Did the cake say he was 67 years old?
67, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No.
Why not?
Then
he was a sick man.
He was very sick. I mean, I know,
Yes,
but 67.
20 years. Right? Wasn't
I'm
that
just
the
saying
line?
This is
maybe-
1958. In 1958, that might have been what, 60?
I like how
Exactly.
Sean just
Everybody-
became
yeah.
Italian. This is
Everybody was older.
1950.
Sean, you know what I liked about that scene though with the cake is
That's how big the pieces were. Jesus Christ!
no, as they're
Like how they
slicing,
showed it to
No wonder
everybody
why
before
Michael
they
has
sliced it.
diabetes in the third one.
no, as they're slicing up the cake, Hyman Roth is slicing up his territories and saying, "Well, here,
Nice.
if I die, you're going to get Vegas, you're going to get this, you're going to get that,"
Nice.
and they're handing out pieces of cake. They're literally cutting up the cake as Hyman Roth is cutting up his legacy and saying, "If something happens, here's what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to dole out." So, I mean, I think I got hit on. I think I still have the bump on my head from getting hit over
From
the
the
head.
symbolism,
Symbolism, but
there's a lot of that kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
in the movie, which is, I think
No,
it's
not
so
negative. It's just
great about it.
Yeah, these are things I'm picking up. Now, Sean, let me ask you. Here's another thing, and maybe it goes to what Eric said. Eric was like, the Cuba stuff could have been cut a little short.
Okay.
I don't feel that they developed Kay's situation enough and Fredo's situation enough. Like it's like Fredo's the rat because he mentioned Johnny Ola. Like we see a mysterious phone call. Why are you calling me? Like we didn't really see what I wasn't invested in what really turned him. And Kay, Kay's she's been unhappy since the end of the first film. So it's kind of like, and that's what my thing is. He goes to Cuba, he comes back and Kay's on, Kay's just unhappy and she's ready. Like there was no, like Eric said, some of these side characters that needed more development didn't get it. I really wanted to, for me to be impactful, I really wanted Kay to have something happen, just an affair or whatever. We just come back and she's just pissed off. She's just unhappy. I hate you. You're a monster. It's like, okay.
I think there's a lot of fill in the blanks that you could devise and reason out.
I'm going to give you one more too. And
I don't view Fredo as a rat. A rat is someone that,
unintentional rat.
Okay, I don't think it's fair to say he's a rat. I just think he just got mixed up, and
his whole family grew up to be rats.
And they knew they could take advantage of Fredo, and he allowed himself to be taken advantage of. I don't think he wanted to see Michael killed. I just thought he, like you said, something for me where I wasn't. Yeah, so I didn't feel like the weak link anymore. Somebody thought he was important. Kay, I think you start to see it when she tries to leave, and they're like, "You're not going anywhere. You're going to stay in the compound." Yeah. And I think her way of controlling this, getting back control, was getting rid of that baby, and that was her way of doing it. And she wanted to, I think she wanted to hurt Michael, and then I think that was the best way that. Well,
I think maybe if we knew it, but Michael didn't. Mm-hmm. That might have been more impactful. Like if we knew that she had the abortion because she, if she had confided into somebody, and then we know that bomb's going to go off at some point. Like as opposed to us all here, because then all of a sudden it kind of comes out of the blue. It's like, all right, well here it is. Here's
because that was a way to hurt him. Like that.
I know it was, but
having
Tom tells him that she
it was a shock.
Yeah, it was a miscarriage
for sure. It was an absolute shock, and
that scene had to happen that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't have the audience know that. That would take
Okay.
away one of the greatest moments in the film. And I think the whole point is the movie is from Michael's perspective and Vito's perspective, right? And it's that contrast. And as much as I think it could have worked as separate films, but you're seeing him kind of suspecting Fredo without knowing all the facts. You're seeing him
Yes.
surprised that she's going to leave and take his kids. Like, what the hell,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Yeah.
What?
so it's like, I think that's good for the audience. I think that makes us see Michael's deterioration because we're like, why is he going to kill Fredo? What the hell, you know? So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, and,
You
well,
can definitely make the argument too that the women in these movies are extremely downplayed.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
underserved.
The mom, the mother, she's listed in the credits, not even in like the big
Yeah.
credits, like, as one of the main characters. She's way down the list.
Way
Mama,
after.
Mama Corleone.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that for Diane Keaton to have played this extremely naive, timid character throughout from the very beginning, from the first movie, and then to have that one moment where she finally fights back, like she, and has something really like hurtful and something really devastating for him. I thought it worked.
Yeah.
Wasn't it chilling?
thought-
Wasn't it chilling when he's like, I won't let it happen. Like he's not saying I'm going to kill you if but he's basically saying it. He's like, it's impossible for you to leave and take my kids.
Yeah.
It's that's chilling.
I think one of the things, and Eric touched on it, is, again, I've said this multiple times on different podcasts, we're looking through the scope of 2025. And so when we're looking at especially this particular world, in that particular time, like Eric said, Vito's wife was just there. She was almost ancillary. She was just like a side character. So they didn't give her a lot of meat. And the same thing with Kay. Connie barely has anything. Like, the women in this film are severely downplayed. But when they have their moments, like the moment that Michael has with his mother, or the moment that Kay has with the abortion, or when Connie gets to beg for him to forgive Fredo, like, they have these very brief moments, and that probably is a very real feeling for, again, that time period, and in this particular family dynamic, I think.
Yeah.
So I think they played it well in terms, they're not going to show it.
Well, yeah, they did. They made the most of what they had. But I got one more nitpick, and then I'll leave. Then we're going to go back to the early 1900s. We need to go back to the early 1900s. Yeah. My final nitpick are these Senate hearings. Like, again, all of a sudden we kind of have a flashback, and then all of a sudden, they're having, Pentangeli is in front of a Senate hearing. Giving stuff out, like there's no indicate. Like, the last thing we saw him, we knew he was left for dead. He survived his attempted strangling, but then all of a sudden we come out of a flashback, and there's Senate hearings. Like, I don't know, we don't know where this came from, where this investigation was. Like it seemed like there was too much going on for Cole. Like he wanted to make this epic film, and he did, but there's some of these leaps I just couldn't take, because I'm like, all of a sudden, okay, I felt like, did I miss? Is there something I missed? Because when was it? When did these arrests happen? And when did this whole thing? There was no mention. Oh, they could have even just said, hey, you know what? There's Senate hearings coming up, Michael, and we gotta keep an eye on this. Like, if Tom Hagen had just said that. But we come back to, like, all of a sudden this whole other thing is going on that we had no idea.
But that's Pentangeli. It kind of works itself out, though, because Pentangeli, that was his revenge, because he thought Michael was trying to have him killed. So he, becomes this, witness now. Yeah. Now he's going to go against the family, which is a question that I want to pose to all of you, but we'll do that a little bit later.
Do it now while we're hot.
Okay, so
get it while it's hot.
So if all of this was written for the character of Clemenza,
yes,
do you think he would have? Which is, I don't blame the Castellano for not coming back if that's the case, because the character of Clemenza, would he have done that? Would he have been, would he have accepted being at the level he was, like that Pantangeli was, and he was complaining and whining about him being stepped on and being, dealing with these two punks in New York.
we don't know how much they changed. Yeah, we don't know how much of Pantangeli they wrote after. And
would he have testified against Michael?
I don't think so. I don't think Clemenza would.
I don't either.
Not based on anything we knew of Clemenza.
Right.
Unless they would have had to like tie it in with Vito and just been like, you're not your dad's son kind of thing.
Yeah, but even that would have been a betrayal beyond comprehension. Like that
would make the suicide, I think, stronger, and the whole, I thought that was a great ending.
But then again, Michael's not, nobody's safe in Michael's eyes, right? I mean, look what happened to Tessio.
Kills his brother.
And look what happened to Abe Vigoda in the first. He knew his fate. He was pretty much, you're gonna, it was just business, Michael. And he's like, well, you're gone.
Sure, what do
you do? So I don't know.
If you bring it back to the 1900s, it's Clemenza that kind of brings Vito into the fold of this world.
Yeah. For sure.
And he's the one that's
great scene.
And I mean, Vito takes charge and takes it to another level that Clemenza might not have been ready. But Clemenza, if you remember, when they're inside stealing the rug, he's ready to kill that cop if he came through the door.
Yep,
such a great scene.
So and you see Vito kind of learning everything. He's watching everything, and he's learning about how to survive and what you can do.
And in the first one, Clemenza, he's a loyal soldier. And I was. When you see him, like, I don't know if he's at a safe house when he goes to bed and he's in a very like dingy one room kind of deal. I'm like, is that where Clemenza lived? Like, is that his, or is that, am I mixing that up? Is that a safe house he's kind of staying?
Him and Paulie from Rocky live in the same flat.
But I'm like, how could this guy
under the same newspaper?
But that's not how that guy should be living. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there is, could there be something to it where he's like,
he just might be old school too, where he just doesn't.
That's true.
Doesn't go in for the opulence, because none of these guys. Michael's the first one that really goes for the opulence, right? Because Vito lives in a very
that wedding.
Yeah, the wedding was big, but he's in a modest house in the neighborhood. They Italians do big weddings, so that's just a function.
And communions, I guess, in
all that Tahoe. All that stuff. But you see how Michael is flaunting it, but
it's ridiculous.
Wanting to be legitimate, and you don't see it. Yeah. So let's go back to the. We didn't really talk about the De Niro section of this, and Vito's voyage to America, and where he gets his name, and at first, I was like, I wasn't sure. I knew who De Niro played, but by the end, I was totally connected that this man is going to grow up to be Brando. Like De Niro did again, he's not the De Niro we know now. You talking to me, and like he.
So a little bit of the body language was more De Niro than Brando. So,
but I think the theory, Sean, of in this case for De Niro of less is more, because Brando's performance was so understated, right, and so internalized that De Niro could not be this totally different. He had to bring that. He had to channel that same energy while doing it as a younger person, right? What do you think? Like, kind of, by the end of those scenes, were you totally like, this is the same guy?
Yeah. I was. I thought he did a great job. And of course they incorporate some of the lines and the wisdom to help with that. But I don't even think he needed it. I think he channeled it very well. The composed, all about family and relationships. And if I could help you and you help me, like I thought he did a great job of building that character to what we know it becomes in the first one.
Yeah,
and the world.
It was a great contrast, right, from Don Fanucci, because Don Fanucci was just about shaking people down and give me your money, and if you don't give me your money, something bad's going to happen to you. And then Vito, as a young man, sees a different way of connecting with these people, and the notion of I'm somebody that can do something for you instead of taking from you.
Right.
Yeah, there's two scenes with Vito that stand out. And one is in the theater with when Finucci and he's sitting with Jenko, and Jenko's like, "Isn't she the most beautiful woman?" And Vito, he's like, "To you, she's beautiful, but me, my wife, and my son, that's my everything." And that says a lot about him as an individual in that moment. You learn a lot about him there. And then the other scene that says a lot about him is when he doesn't make him fire him, where he says, "I get it. You have to give this man my job. You've been like a father to me. I appreciate everything." And he won't even accept the crate of food. Those two things say everything you need to know about Vito Corleone. Right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good, Nick.
And that raises a question in my mind. Which character do you think is greater, Vito Corleone or Michael Corleone? Obviously, Michael has the bigger change, but I think Vito Corleone is like one of the greatest characters ever written.
Because he's also likable. He's likable. Michael is not likable.
He's a murderer too. But
he's likable.
Exactly. And he has this code that he sticks with from beginning to end.
It's like I said at the beginning, Eric was saying, wholesome is a word, which is an odd word to have for a Don, but there's a wholesomeness to him. Like it's just, there's a humanity to him that Michael doesn't really have.
Yeah. There's a sense of honor.
Two things. Yeah, there's two things there. First of all, I had to check the credits because I thought the guy that played Don Finucci was Mr. Belvedere.
Oh gosh, no! Come on!
Wow! Yeah, I could see it.
No,
is that Mr. Belvedere?
Absolutely not.
Anyway, so
and by the way, I don't know. Half of your audience knows who the hell Mr. Belvedere is.
That's okay. Well, the other half knows, and the other one half will look it up. On a serious note, I think why Vito was a more likable character or just more successful is also because he was from the people. He didn't walk around in a big suit. He walked around in peasant clothes, and he's like, "I'm a guy that can get things done." And it was, like I said, it wasn't through intimidation. He was a man of those people. He understood what it was to be, what the immigrant experience was.
Yeah,
like when the daughter comes, they're going to throw out my mother because she has a dog, and the dog is barking, and he wants to do, he has those same problems when he was, his son was sick, and just having those immigrant problems of life in New York at the time, so I think people were wanted. He was almost like a Robin Hood figure, right? To those people where I can solve problems for you. I don't want anything, but I may need a favor, but if you need something and I can do it, and so he got this reputation, right? Because then when the landlord comes, back after their second meeting, he's like, "Oh, I did ask about you," and he came back, goes, here's all the money back. You want me to lower the rent? He didn't have to say a word.
Yeah,
right. Vito didn't say anything when he said, "I'll lower the rent $5," and Vito didn't say anything.
What do you think people said about him when he asked?
Good question, Eric.
What do you think they said?
Well, one of the things
about Vito,
because he said, "Ask about me," right?
Ask about me.
Okay. So they were probably saying how compassionate he is and how
stand-up guy does what he says he's going to do.
Exactly, he's building a community.
People in the community weren't afraid of him because when he's out there talking to Signor Roberto, a guy comes up to him, which pissed Coppola off, but De Niro liked it and they kept it. He comes up to him and he shakes his hand and he's like, he says Don Vito, or he acknowledges him in a very friendly way, and Vito shakes his hand and acknowledges him back. So he has a rapport with the community. Like he's not. It's almost like a Bronx Tale. Like he's not feared. He's loved.
Yeah, but Sean's question is, why was this guy so? This guy was obviously afraid and shaken, right, Sean? That's what you're.
He was shaking. Like that's where I'm like, what?
Well, because he probably told him he killed Finucci.
Yeah, I think he wants to create a community, not of fear, but of respect. But he does that. He does say, you go ahead and ask about. I think he knows that guy's going to come back with his hat in his hand because he's scared.
Yeah.
So what were they? Did people know? Like, how did people know? They must have known.
I think it's because these people were being shaken down by Finucci for so long that the fear is ever present. So here comes this new guy. He bumps him off. What's he going to do? Like, okay,
Yeah.
is he going to be the same way? But obviously he's not. So he's building, like I said, he's like building that community. He's building that trust.
Be nice to him, work with him, and you'll live.
It all goes, it comes down to that line he says to, what's his name? The guy that played,
Jenko?
Good Jenko. Yeah. He was like, he goes, why are Italians bothering other Italians?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. He's like,
he's Italian. Why would
he saw like that traumatic experience that he had in Corleone in the town. That should have been the community of Corleone. This guy should never have been in charge. It was everybody, again, the same kind of thing. He wasn't going to let that happen again in this. He was going to do something about that. That's in his heart. It's like almost taking sort of a proto revenge on that guy in Italy and Sicily, like I'm going to do it better. I'm going to, if I'm going to make sure these people are safe, and I'm going to protect them the way it should have been done in the old country.
And
so
it kind of ties in with that scene with Tom in the prison yard, right? Where he tells them, like, you're old school. You were trying to reinvent the empire again, right? And the way things were done back then, and that's, I think, how Vito looked at it. It's like the respect, and that was where the fear came from. And all these people were like, if we don't show respect, we're gonna get in trouble, or we're gonna, So it's a little bit of that violence, but like justifying it, like you need to have a heavy hand, and some people will deserve death, and other. So it's like this really epic kind of way of looking at it, And I think Vito epitomizes that.
Yeah, well, I think he was creating a symbiotic relationship between him and the his neighborhood, right? Because most of the people, the people like that daughter, she wasn't afraid of Vito. She came in saying, "Can you help? Like, what can you do? I heard, just like in The Godfather, people are coming to him to ask for favors, and I'll need a favor in return." Mm-hmm. But it's more out of respect because there is that barter. Instead of him just taking, he doesn't just take from people, Vito. He doesn't just get, what's in your wallet, give me what you have. It's I'll do this for you, and then one day I may need something. So it feels like you're actually just kind of bartering with him, when really he's getting everybody to owe him.
It's power,
But his tentacle, he was starting to kind of create that network of people that, would spread the word of, he's a benevolent leader. He'll help you solve your problems.
Which is what Michael couldn't achieve.
Yeah.
He couldn't be like his father that way. Everything had to be done.
That world is done. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a sense, he became more ruthless than Finucci, even the Don in the old country. Michael is worse than these characters.
I dare say he got, like, Sonny probably wouldn't have done what to Fredo.
No,
he would never have done to Fredo ever.
Sonny was hot-headed and impulsive,
smacked him around, but he wouldn't have killed him.
Yeah, like Sonny was hot-headed and impulsive, but I don't think he would have. He still had that deep family tie.
Yeah.
Where again, Michael just had whatever happened to him, and maybe it was the thing in Sicily with his in the first movie with his wife getting killed. We saw a lot of things happen to him that kind of put walls in front of him, and like we said, when he came back in Godfather to Kay, he was very cold. I'm going to marry you. I'm going to we're going to have kids. We're going to it was like a business proposition to her. So we had kind of seen this building from the first movie, but in Godfather 2, it's just like, he's on a fucking rampage. He just wants everybody that seems to be or I just came across Christy. Is it because that's the easiest answer? Is just to kill, get rid of people, because that's the easiest way of dealing with things. So you think that's his coping mechanism with this, is just kind of, because he would have killed, like, he's not going to kill Kay, but he would have, if she was anybody else, he would have killed her. If it wasn't his wife, if it was someone else's wife, he would have killed her for doing that. But it seems like killing is just his easiest way of just handling stuff. It's like, that solves your problem. and then you internalize it. You
Yeah, I
step
mean, look, you could play the fact that he is a veteran and killed in the war, and that was the way you dealt with things over there, and it's just stuck in him. That you have an enemy, you kill him. Someone betrays you, you kill them. Like it's that war mentality. They kind of touch on it, but we don't really go deep into it.
Hmm.
I think he's just it might be more driven by fear. His fear of that loss of control he doesn't have within his life and his family. So I mean, I don't know. He could also just be a sociopath. I mean, he's just he's
Or
Sounds
he's
familiar, though,
becoming
doesn't it?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's becoming one,
he's
right?
not like he's kind of a complex. He's a hard read. He's a complex character. Like he like you see him with his son, and you where his son's like, "Did you see what I get you?" He goes, "Yeah, it was on my pillow," and it seems like he really loves his kids, but then it's like he always keeps like a distance from everyone. Like he's never really fully
engaged.
Invested in a relationship. The only one he really seemed invested in, I think we talked about this in the Godfather, was in Sicily. Was what's her name?
Apollonia.
Apollonia.
Yeah, Apollonia was like, and it's maybe after
May she
that.
rest in peace.
May she rest in peace.
Rest in
Because
peace.
that was
She was a
something
great
that
character, man. I loved her.
May she
because that
rest.
was
When
that was
she blew
somebody.
up, I was
Nick, may she rest in pieces. You mean?
Oh,
Oh, too
Why'd
soon,
you have to
Dean.
go there?
but that
Way
was
too
somebody
soon.
that he found on his own. That was somebody that wasn't like
Yeah, it wasn't like arranged.
nobody.
It wasn't
Nobody
him
was telling him
knowing
how to
about
run
him.
his life. Nobody was, he just did that. He fell in love but
It
he
was
lost it.
genuine. It's
Yeah.
the
It was
only genuine relationship. Like with Kay in the beginning, it's probably genuine, but since he becomes who he becomes, that is the only genuine relationship with no ties.
But you say like you said it perfectly, Krista. You said distance. That's the key word there. He was always distant from the family. How much time did he spend away from the family going to war? That's the last scene at the end kind of brings it all to full circle in that way that Michael was never really there for his family like his brothers were. He wasn't integrated into the
didn't want to be. Yeah, he didn't want to go.
He was the outlier. He was the and he started running everything, and he just decided to do it his own way, which was not the family way.
Sean,
Right.
fair statement. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Is that the moral of this movie?
Wow.
Right? It's a famous
That's,
saying, and because Vito, let's do the contrast. Vito never had absolute power. He was always there was other
Came
families, and there was all these truces and alignments, right? But as we saw in the end of Godfather, Michael erases all that. There is nobody. He has absolute power. So is the moral absolute power corrupts absolutely?
I guess you got something there.
I don't know, right? Because because he literally spirals and just like gives into every of his basest impulses, right? It's just like I said, his impulse is to kill. All right, let's kill Hyman Roth, kill this guy, kill.
Kill, CILL, kill.
Well, yeah. Well, I think it became a kill or be killed kind of world that he was living in. It seems like at the end. I mean, Roth almost had him dead to rights. With Hagen says Roth played this one perfectly, set him up that he was going to take a fall at the Senate hearings.
Yeah,
and Michael just got the Pantangeli brother and.
Yeah, what was he wearing? It was like little pom poms around his neck. It was like some type of tie, but it was like pom pom.
Yeah. But I think he was in a kill or be killed world at that point. That he has a role in creating, without a doubt.
He totally created it. How close did he come to getting whacked in the shootout in his bedroom? Right when she's like, "Why'd you leave the drapes open?" And he's like, "That little turn of the head," and then suddenly, boom! Right?
Yeah.
Ping, 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 ping.
When we talked the first movie, we talked about whether how much he did kill maybe when he was in the war, and how different that might have been from his choice then to be the assassin. Because that first murder in the movie, in the first one, what a great scene, right? And like he almost messes it up, right? Because he doesn't drop the gun the right way, and and now how easy it becomes, like you all said, in the second movie for him to kill. Like it
Well,
just
he's ordering.
Oh, he's not pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
He's ordering these things now.
But so much like how he looks at life now, where it's like, he's so devastated about the abortion, right? And yet, like, he's like his brother, he's like, kill him and kill her and kill them, and just and then he's left alone. Then he's left alone. Like, who does he have?
Even when he tells Nieri, nothing happens to my brother while my mother's alive, and you could see the look on his face, like, I'm gonna have to take this poor guy out.
Yeah.
And he changes because you see he's the one that took care of the Vegas showgirl or prostitute, whatever, and he comes out of the bathroom and he's kind of like, yeah, I did it. He's a killer, but even he is seeing the deterioration of Michael in his orders when he gets ordered to basically told that one day you're going to be killing my brother.
Yeah. I mean, he's a soldier and he's got to do it, but it doesn't mean he's got to like it.
Right.
Like I said, he was literally Neary was like Michael's right-hand man. Like, he was the guy that never, like, his own personal bodyguard in on all those conversations, just always kind of hanging around, always sitting in the back at the bar, just kind of lurking around.
And does Fredo have any glimpse that that's it? Like, like when Tessio knew, a bunch of others know, like, when the end is coming.
Nah. Because again,
that'd be cool that him saying that prayer as he's fishing, knowing I'm gonna get one. But he's so stupid; he doesn't even know. He's coming along fishing with me. They just took Anthony off the boat.
Is it stupidity or is it just faith? Like, faith in your family.
That's why it's ambiguous. You don't know. But I think he's so stupid. I don't think he knows. I don't think.
No,
he knows.
I think he did know. The look on his face when they took Anthony away, if you notice, he looks up and he's got this look on his face. He knows. I think
that's how I'd like to read it, But
now you got to give him credit. You got to give him credit for taking it like a man, because that's
well. You know what? It begs another question then, because only Michael's son knew about the fishing secret, right? He's the only one that knew about the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the boat is going out. And he's saying a Hail Mary. Does Neary think that he knows what's going to happen because he's saying a Hail Mary? Where we're watching it because he's saying Hail Mary because that's how he gets the fish.
Yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, and then obviously it takes on a whole different tone.
That's what I'm saying.
When we're watching the rowboat and he's saying it, and then you just see the gun come into the frame. But I wonder what Neary was thinking, or was he on the boat with them enough that he knew that was what he did to catch the fish. So I don't know. It is. I had my quibbles with it, but I guess we're going to have to watch. We're going to have
it's
to.
It's only your first viewing, so.
We're going to have to do Godfather 3. I think I need to close it.
Maybe Coda.
Bad.
I need to close it out. It can't be any worse than this one.
Oh my God!
Oh, shots fired!
Wait, did I say that out loud? I said that out loud. Shit!
Wow.
Sorry, it slipped. All right, let's do as we always do. Let's do a quick couple of favorite scenes as we wind this down. I do. It did make me want to watch Godfather 3 now to see how horrible it is, or just to see how this kind of stuff wraps up. Because
you're gonna like that one the best. I think that's where this is going. Dean is gonna be like, that was a masterpiece.
Probably.
Andy Garcia was magical.
I would.
He's into the incest.
No.
All right, so we'll. I think we'll put it. I think we. It's only right. Let's just finish it. There's not.
Do it.
There's not an expanded universe. There's not, anything after that. So we can unless we want to do the Sicilian with Christopher Lambert, which kind of is supposed to be what was in the Godfather universe. It was supposed to be Michael Corleone, but they had to change it because they couldn't get the rights. So anyway, let's start with Nick. Give a favorite scene or two real quick. Quick, Nick.
I've said always, Godfather Part 1 is my favorite movie, but my favorite scene in the Godfather saga is in Part 2, and that is the kiss of death. When the scene in Cuba when he goes and he grabs him and he's like, I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart. That's my favorite scene.
Okay, cool. Sean?
I like the senator and Michael at the in the office
in the beginning,
the gaming license.
Yeah.
I think that's just, the senator, like, the whole, I got a check from, Anthony Vito Corleone. And he's like,
yes,
glad shake hand, and then they go into the office and he's like, I despise you people. And you're part of this hypocrisy. And he takes the cannon and I intend to squeeze you. He like points it at Michael and Michael just goes, I'll give you my answer. Nothing.
Yeah,
And you're paying for the gaming. I love that scene. I think it's a great scene. I think both give and take from the actors is great. That's my favorite scene.
Yeah, that's a good one. There was shades of that in Casino. When De Niro's character wanted to get the gaming licenses and he had to deal with the politicians. They were like, "Oh, we don't want you guys coming out here." And so it's kind of, when I watched it, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I've seen this."
Godfather 2 came first, Dean.
Not in my timeline.
Okay, they did not copy, Casino.
In my chronology, Casino was first. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I got to go with what my eyes were exposed to first.
Okay.
That's what lives. Christy, what's favorite?
In that case, you're saying that The Godfather 2 copied Return of the Jedi by going back to the Star Wars, like Tatooine and all. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got it.
Lucas was the originator.
Got it.
That's why they call him the master. Go ahead, Christy.
Oh, are we going to be doing an honorable mention?
We're talking about Godfather 2.
Are we going to be doing honorable mention scenes or just our favorite?
Just favorites, yeah. Well, I didn't know we were just classifying them now.
Well, because I thank you, Nick, for mentioning that scene because I do love that scene. The scene with him and Kay when she tells him it's an abortion is a really powerful scene. It's a really powerful scene. And it says a lot about their relationship. I think Nick commented like how the acting from Pacino, where he's like, he's so fucking angry and you can see it in his face. Like his lip is like quivering.
Eating.
And just her just telling him and then telling him it was a boy and telling her and why she did it is it's a hard scene. I agree with Sharon to watch. It's a hard scene, especially after he hits her and this rage is just boiling up between the two of them, but it's a really good scene. Probably nothing else that could hurt him. You can't hurt him business wise, short of killing him. She hurt him more than anybody could hurt him.
Yeah, he's dead emotionally as far as his other parts of his family are, his brother and disconnected from Connie. Like he really doesn't care. He's like, oh, Connie came begging back, and he's like, oh, you're coming,
Yeah, and he knows she's not coming back. He can't take her back, and he lost his family.
Yeah, Kay had the one weapon and she wielded it. Eric,
I have two. The prequel scene, I love the killing.
Why he didn't ask? He just does. He didn't ask if there was honourable mention. This other type of category. Was there a sub favorite?
Tied for best. For best.
I'm picking one
so we can do as many as he wants
from each part of the film. So if I'm going to go with the prequel side of it, I got to go with the killing of Finucci.
I could do that too. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eric.
So that was a powerful scene.
Which one?
The killing of Finucci. We don't really know. I mean, if you hadn't seen the film before, Dean, did you know that what he was planning to do at that point, or?
Well, when I saw him running across the roofs, I knew he was,
Yeah, but when he's sitting at the table and Clemenza is basically saying, "Wait a minute, he's the one that got him into this business, but yet Clemenza's content to just be a small-time hood, and just take care of himself.
We got to pay him, and he'll leave us alone." Yeah,
right. So, did you have any inclination as what he was planning to do? Like,
when Vito's like, he'll take the 50, and he'll be, from each of you, and he'll be happy. Just trust me. I knew obviously there was going to be something.
And that's the first time he says that line. Well, it's not the first time he says the line, but that's where. Make him an offer. He can't
make him an offer, and it's a little different from the was later. Right?
He don't refuse.
He don't refuse.
So
his English gets better.
What do you have for the current
scene? I really like the moment where he's talking to Pantangeli in the old house, and that
when he surprised him when he just showed up,
right? And he yells at him. He goes, "In my bedroom where my wife sleeps." And then he goes, "And when my children come to play with their toys."
Yeah.
The way he softens his voice right there is fucking brilliant. I just love that.
good.
But this could this very well be the
Control.
start of the yelling aspect?
Yes.
You know,
I think it. Well, he did, like, in other movies he had scenes, right?
Yeah.
Right before that, but that's where I think that's control. That's him at his finest, not heat.
Yeah.
I'll go. Wow.
All right,
Ding, 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 ding.
Nick.
We need a heat bell for Nick. Nick, you got to get a sound effect for every time you do that. You work it in every time.
I'm gonna get like a tug horn.
Just use the voice of Pacino. You know,
I got.
Hoo-ah, there you go.
Or pretty much any scene with Lee Strasberg.
He's great.
Yeah.
The guy's just so effortless and natural.
The Mo Green scene.
He just, he's just so great to watch. It's just a pleasure. He's so comfortable as an actor. Like when he's, when they're with the cake scene or just any of those scenes, he's just kind of when he's sitting when Michael comes to see him for the first time and he has his leg draped over the arm of the thing, like just sitting, like a regular guy. And then when he sits back down,
His
he does
shirt's open.
Like it's
those houses, man. Those houses looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like West Palm Beach or Miami.
He
it's
really
like
inhabited that character, like he really did.
Yeah.
And then I guess from the flashback when Bob Uecker talked to Mr. Belvedere about. Oh wait, that's
Bob Uecker talks.
Wait, that's not that was Fernucci. Okay, sorry. Bob Uecker wasn't in it.
So disrespectful.
No, what I liked about the just the collection of scenes in the, we'll call it the prequel part, was just the pay. It was just, again, I think Coppola captured really the feel. There was all these people in the city, right? Like that area where they live was just thick with people and dogs, and there's like chickens in the middle of the road. Like that felt like real, like wow, like this is kind of, and it was always muddy, like it was, because the streets weren't paved. Like he really kind of captured that feel.
Agree.
For what the immigrant experience must have been like for these people. They're all like trying to just have a small shop, just trying to have just a small business, just to, they weren't asking for much, just kind of to partake in the American dream. That's why they all came, and so I kind of liked those early scenes. They felt very authentic, to me, and it felt real, and it felt like, that was a time when you could get away with this stuff. I was thinking about it. I was like when De Niro takes apart the gun. I was like,
just dropping it in different places.
Seconds, they'd be checking every chimney, and they'd have the fingerprints on it. I'm like, back then there wasn't any of that, so it's kind of like, he breaks it, stuffs it, and walks away and is done with it. So I liked the juxtaposition of it, but I really liked. I would have liked to have spent more time in that early world to really see Vito, how all this came together, on a grander scale, and I know there's only, the movie's, 3 hours and 42 minutes or something like that. So, we kind of got two less than 2 hour films out of it, believe it or not. As long as it is, we didn't.
So what are we going to talk about the next hour of this podcast? We got to go.
We're going to talk about the deleted scenes. Yeah. The deleted scene with young Hyman Roth, where they there's that deleted scene where he comes in early and they name him. Yeah. His name Johnny Lips was what Clemenza wanted to call him. What call him Johnny Lips? Vito's like, what?
Because of Hyman, like all just.
No, it was just whatever. But it was great. Again, my favorite, one of my favorite actors, Bruno Kirby, was just so.
He was great.
I think he was
perfect.
Yeah, he kind of had that, a little bit of, still not the roly-poly that Clemenza would become, but you could see that was on the horizon.
He wore a fat suit, I think I read.
Well, he wasn't.
He put a belly on.
That big,
no, but they put a belly on him or something. He wasn't that big.
You could absolutely see, like, okay, that's going to be Clemenza in a while.
So, Eric, you said the other scene when he kills Fernucci. I love that scene. And it's the light, how when they look at De Niro and the lights going in and out because he undid, and then when Fernucci looks at him and he like doesn't really get it at first or what's going to happen. He's like, what do you? Yeah. But the whole, just the way the scene is shot and the light that goes on and off on De Niro's face, that makes that entire scene.
So it's also ruthless how he puts the gun in his mouth. Like I think he's already dead at that point.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's the message.
And that was like, wow, that's where you like this guy. There's a side to him.
Yeah, that was the message. Because Finucci, when Finucci turned around, I think he was so emboldened that he didn't think anybody would ever try anything like this, right? Because he's revered. He's walking around. He puts the money on the statue, and he thinks that these people love him, but he's shaking them all down. These people are actually living in fear. So yeah, Sean, I think that last shot was the message of
Well, let's not forget
this wasn't just a shooting.
We also have to mention the fact that he goes back to the old country and kills the guy that killed his parents too. So that
scene is ingrained in my head.
That's like a pig. He's like,
and this is,
but he brings him the Janko oil.
Yeah, like hey,
here's some Janko oil.
I like it when De Niro walks up. He goes, "Give me your blessing." He just give me your blessing, just.
That's where when I first saw that when I was a kid, I remember saying, "Why is he telling him his name? He's gonna get killed," And then you realize he's the one doing the killing. That's why he did it,
Yeah, and he knew
to know who he is. Yeah,
he said, "I can't let this kid live. No matter what, he's gonna come back." Like,
how did he escape off that property? Like, I looked at that. I'm like,
his boys. He had his boys with him.
I don't honestly think he had that many bodyguards at that point anymore. I think he was just old and just.
Wait, you?
No, I'm talking about as a kid.
As a kid, yeah. Oh. Yeah.
They had to gate in, and then he takes off, and he's not. Those guys are not that far behind him.
That's very much like Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? When Leia was running away from those guys, and she's just that, but 5 feet ahead.
The town protected him. The town was all
over tumbled.
He would have never made it off that property. Sorry.
Well, he ran.
That's my nitpick.
But he did.
He did
run towards the gate.
Otherwise, there would have been no story.
He ran across though. He didn't run towards the gate. He hopped over the fence and then
he zigzagged like the moose.
And that guy's got to get new guards because they're slow.
There's a little too much of that Jenko.
Well, now they're dead.
Dipping that Italian bread in olive oil.
Jenko. We should just do advertisements for Jenko oil.
Do it. Let us know what your favorite scenes are, or if you think I'm totally out of whack for my my hot takes.
Honest, yeah.
On the
let me just. What do you think of that last scene? What did you think of the last scene? Like the one that
which
the one that Brando was supposed to be in, but he wouldn't.
Oh, you mean the party?
Yeah. Everybody back.
It was nice to see everybody again. I guess it was kind of hard. It kind of made you miss the first.
Yes.
Film.
Yeah.
It kind of made you miss that. Or it shows how fast everything has fallen apart. Not fast,
right. Exactly. It's not like that anymore. And
it was a room. It was but it's funny. Sonny kept on pushing Carlo on. Push it
I like that he goes after Michael. When you go to college, you get stupid.
Connie, stay with Carlo. Sit with Carlo.
Go show Carlo the tree. I love that line.
He was really pushing Carlo on it, but it was kind of bittersweet, right? I guess what it would be is kind of seeing the vitality of all the characters and how big Sonny was, and you kind of forget because so much has happened and how timid Michael was, and it's kind of
how far he came.
Yeah,
how much he's changed.
You could make a valid argument that some things are kind of hitting you over the head, sure, for sure, to drive points home and things. But then you think about what's on the landscape today on television. They're pretty much doing the same thing. We know every little detail, everything's explained, everything. So I can forgive the things that Dean has problems with in this film in terms of jumping into something that all of a sudden they're at the Senate hearings and things like that. Because you put that together in your head and you just and again it's like I say
I'm a stupid movie goer.
So it's just but the thing is that these things work themselves out. Like I said, the scenes play out and they okay.
And that's where a lot of other movies would have those filler scenes to show how they got to the Senate hearings, and how his mom died and everything. But it just jumps to the funeral, or just storytelling. Enter the scene late and leave it early. That's
maybe
best.
Maybe I would like it if it was rearrange if it was arranged chronologically. Maybe I would like
Maybe
to
you'd like
see
it to start more than once.
to see the the
probably would. That
as one complete thought, and to see how Godfather 2 plays out as one complete.
Didn't they do that, Nick? Didn't
They
they play it? They played it in chronological order.
Yeah, it was
But I think
chronological order.
you would lose that juxtaposition a little bit, but I think I would rather see that because I don't like flashbacks. But it is what it is.
Okay,
you could probably get that on eBay, Dean.
I'm having a flashback right now, Nick, of how much better Heat was.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh!
I'm tired. I need a gunshot.
If we watch Godfather Part 3 and you think it's the best of the trilogy,
I'm
done.
I'm never doing this. I'm never doing your podcast again.
My hot take is Dean's going to like it better than the other two.
We're doing it next week.
No,
That's
we're
my
not.
hot take.
Or he's gonna have some revelation about it that's gonna make us rethink the whole trilogy and realize it's a masterpiece.
There's no revelation, Nick.
I see these things.
No revelation happening there.
I see them with fresh eyes, not tired Godfather watching eyes.
Yeah, but we should watch it, the Coda version, right? The version that he re-edited. Shouldn't we watch that version?
Whatever I have in the Blu-ray set, I think it's just Godfather 3. I just want to see the film. I don't want to see anything. I want to see what it was. I want to see what everybody hated. I don't want to see me like. I don't want to see it fixed. I want to see what
Sofia Coppola is better as a director and shouldn't act.
Yeah. No, I want to see what the original intent was, and I think and then we can make the decision because anything else
was first cousin love. That was the original.
Yeah. Well, and that's what was in it. Well, I mean, I don't have a problem. Like whatever the story is
watch the movie, and then you make your determination of whether you want to do it or not. I'll talk about it.
I think we're going to do it. I'm not going to watch it and decide. I think we're all of us are either we're in for a penny and we're in for a pound.
I'll be honest. I think I've seen it once.
Okay.
Once. So I'm going to come at it with that's all I needed. Yeah, and it was late, and I avoided it for a while because I heard it was bad. So let's see what happens.
By the way, Nick, the Coda isn't really all that much different from the
because all the mistakes he made, like the casting and all that stuff that he had to do. Well, it's still in Coda.
It's still the same story, Nick. So the same actors.
Since Sean only saw it once, that's 100% more than I have seen it. So he's up on me. So all right, well, we're going to save that. We'll save that conversation. We will do Godfather 3 at some point. I think we should just to close it out. And if it's a rip session, hey, we did that with Book of Boba Fett. We've had episodes.
Oh yes,
we've had tear apart episodes with Nick and Sean before. So
it'll be fun.
So this wouldn't be the first time they're taking a crowbar to something.
Just when we thought we were out, you keep pulling us back in.
I'm pulling you back in this time. So. That's going to do it. Christy Cuomo, thank you so much for partaking in part 2 of this. We will do a part 3. We have to. It's only right. We've come this far. Why stop now? Right? I
because think so. It feels good to stop.
Sometimes when you're most tired is when you need to push on. And hey, listen, I'm jazzed. I want to see it. I want to see what the big deal was. At this point,
I've
come this
scary
far.
That you're going to probably like this one the best. It scares me.
I'm predicting it. It's my.
I know. I'm with Sean, and it scares me.
It wasn't that bad.
Well, let me tell you, if that's the way I feel, I will.
Nick's impersonation of Dean is Nick doing De Niro as Dean.
That's pretty. That's
pretty much what it looked like, right? I mean,
if that is the case, I will come with cogent points, and I will lay out the I won't just say, "Oh, I'm not just going to be a contrarian." If I really feel that way, I'll tell you. If I thought it was a turd, I'm certainly not going to waste my time. If it was junk, I don't have to watch it again. So it's all good. Anyway, Christy, thank you so much for joining us. Much appreciated. Sean Grady, Drama from the Past. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. There'll be links for those in the show notes. Thank you very much, sir, as always. Nick Corleone, I did not mention, but he's got the, besides the 3324 podcast, he's got the City of Kick blog, which he contributes to. He's the creator of. So it's always Nick all the time. And you have to update your Dracula blog post.
Yes, Nosferatu is very good.
All right,
I liked it.
We're not going to go there. Zip. But you can check out the link. We'll put a link in the show notes to City of Kick. Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, what, Eric?
Nothing. I got nothing.
You got something.
Put a cap on it. We're not going there. We're not going there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Eric is going to leave things unsaid.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for us. He's going to be on that super comfy couch, and I'll be on my nice comfortable office chair until we all meet again. So for Christy, for Sean, for Nick
Jones,
for Christy, for Sean, for Nick
Jones,
for Mr. Belvedere, and for Eric
and Bob Euchre.
And Bob Euchre, who we sadly lost recently. We will ask you to please be kind. Go ahead and rewind.